I'm here with Kneecap. This is the Q&A time, the time we've all been waiting for. I watched the movie a couple of days ago. Really good, man. Serious, and I can relate to a lot of the themes. You guys have experienced a crazy amount of success in a really short amount of time. Could you sort of guide us through that path to maybe the first million streams and what the pipeline was from that to, you know, getting your own feature film with Michael Fassbender in it as well, you know?
We literally put the first tune out, Character, for a laugh. Like, we just thought we'd put this out for the crack, didn't think too much about it. Like, it wasn't like we were like, oh, let's do a band and let's start a band. And like, everybody always asks us, why did you decide to do it in the Irish language? And we actually just communicated. Like, it wasn't just us three, it was like all our mates. We all communicated. It was just the way we socialised in Irish. So it wasn't this conscious decision, let's do music in Irish. It just happened naturally. But we put the first tune out for a laugh, and then it kind of went like locally viral around West Belfast, like chlamydia. And people just took it, and then people were out constantly asking underneath it then, being like, when's the next one? And it just kind of happened naturally then. It just kind of really spiraled very quickly. Like, we were lucky, a lot of bands have to like graft to get a crowd. We put a music video out before we'd ever done a gig, and we had that small demand then where we were from. So it's just really snowballed from then. There was no real, like, there hasn't been a real moment where it was a shift, do you know what I mean, where it went, oh, it's doing well. It just kind of, just domino effect from the start. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, we got, obviously, you see in the movie, we got banned off the radio. That's a true story. We put our first song out, Character, and most music in Irish before us was usually quite radio friendly, you could say. And I think everybody assumed that our music would be quite radio friendly because it was in Irish, because of everything that came before it. So it was meant to be track of the week on Radio na Gaeltachta, which is the Irish language radio station. And we had like local politicians sharing the song. Nobody even listened to it, they were just sharing it. And then like 2 hours later, all their like publicists were like, fucking get that deleted. And then we got taken off the radio. Somebody made a petition to get us back in the radio. We never got back on the radio, and it was the best thing ever happened to us.
Yeah, we had like a teacher approach us like really quickly, being like, oh, the kids in the school will love this. People rapping in Irish. You should come in and do it for the whole school. I swear to fuck. An Irish school, it was an Irish speaker. I was like, I would
yes.
go, I would.
How much?
I was like, I would go through that song one more time, mate.
Yeah, they basically covered everything there.
I'll cover more.
I'll cover a wee bit more. That's more or less what it was, yeah.
That's all good. Obviously, you guys have gone super viral, but not everybody that goes viral ends up with a movie, you know? So what was the leap from there to that next step?
I mean, that was up to Rich. Obviously, he heard about us. He moved to Belfast, married a woman from West Belfast, Danielle, a lovely woman. Thank God for her, bringing it to Belfast. And
there was actually, yeah, speaking of lovely women, there was so he had heard about us. It's not what you think. He had heard about us and was trying to go to our gig, but there was no tickets, and contacted this woman from Ballymena, was it? This woman was selling tickets. And she was such an Kneecap fan, she was like, I can't go, but I don't want the ticket to get wasted, that she drove from Ballymena to Belfast to give him the ticket for free. And then he went to the gig, and then...
Well, she didn't give it to me for free, actually.
All right.
But she didn't, she like, was going to drive down there, and I was like, I'll try to give her some money. Like, you're driving like an hour to come give me this ticket that's like worth like 10 quid. It makes no sense, right? And she's like, I won't take any money. And I remember her coming to my door, and I was like, oh, do you want to come in and like go to the toilet or something? And then my wife was like, she was like, I'm all right. And I just thought, like, she'd driven all the way down. I just thought it would be a nice thing to offer. Was like, do you want to go to the bathroom or have a drink? And then my wife was like, she was like, you can't just, what do you think she's going to say? Like, you're just some random dude on a doorstep and you just ask her if she wants to go to the toilet. That's weird. Like, and I was like, I didn't even think about it like that. I thought I was being nice. And she was like, it sounded fucking creepy. That's what I'm saying.
So
but anyway, but here's the nice thing about it, is that the Belfast premiere, suddenly a couple of days before, I realised, I was like, hang on, none of this would have happened had it not been for this girl who had this ticket. So I like searched back through my Twitter and found her and was like, yo, like, would you like to come to the you know, I don't know if you're aware. And she
She
was
like
like,
to come to the bathroom in my house.
you must need the loo by now. You must need the loo. And yeah, like I said to her, look, you know, I don't know if you're aware. And she was like, well, I'm aware of Kneecat, obviously, and I'm aware of the film. And I said, but you literally were the catalyst for this all. Like, if you didn't, you know, if this hadn't happened. So we chatted away, and I was like, I'd really like you to come to the premiere. And she was like, I'd be delighted to. And then I'd like to say there was some joyous moment where we kind of hugged. I never saw her. So apparently she came. She said she had a lovely time. But yeah, she was there.
I didn't know that.
So, Rich, after the toilet incident, you finally got a
No
ticket.
incident in the toilet. There was a non-incident in the toilet.
Sorry,
there was a
no.
non-toilet incident.
But he got a ticket for the gig, and he was like emailing us for a good few months, trying to get in contact with us. He was like, I want to do this film, and we just ignored him for a few months. Like, obviously, because we had people contacting us all the time saying we want to do this TV series or this documentary, and then we would have talked to them, and they were like fucking some 50-year-old living in his granny's basement. And
I lived in my granny's
in the loft.
In an actual
her
bedroom
toilet.
in my granny's house. In the toilet.
Yeah. And also, obviously, you probably might have noticed by now that Rich is from England. That made us very sceptical as well. The English have a very bad history of profiting off the backs of the Irish.
I don't know when the profiting's coming. There's not much profit. But
Have you should see his house. And his toilet. But we actually got in contact with us and we got chatting, and he found out he was very serious about it in 2019. This all started and we started writing the script. COVID happened, I set it back. But I used to sit together. He used to bring like 12, 24 Guinness to the house. Beamish instead. And we started writing the script, and like the first few tins, it's going to be amazing. And then after like 8 tins, we'd all just be screaming at each other. And then we just had to start again and just do it over again the next day. So that took us about a year to notice, like, to kind of understand that we shouldn't be drinking 20 Guinness and writing the script.
Productive year.
Yeah, not really.
When the movie was first pitched, was it always your plan to play yourselves, and how difficult or easy was it to, I guess, embody yourself in a movie?
I asked Brad Pitt, would he could he body double for me, but he was out of shape, so it didn't work out in the end. Yeah, we always say it was the role we were born to play. You know, so
We just know exactly what we're going to say now. We've done this amount of Q&As.
I was original, wasn't I?
I was off the top. That's what
I was
I
off
was
the
gonna
top.
say.
That was it.
Well, we laughed about it there recently. We were like, I just feel sorry for people who have like spent 30 or 40,000 pound of daddy's money to go to drama school, and we've just standard in and possibly get nominated for.
Yeah, we just stand around and possibly get
Censorship.
nominated.
Hello. You'll never stop me.
We back.
No, we did acting classes for like 5-6 months, like once a week, barely. The hard part was turning up in time. And
It wasn't like an intensive 6 months course or anything.
it wasn't. The most intense part of the acting classes was like had to like stare in each other's eyes for like 10 minutes.
Like a warm up he made us do.
Yeah, that was one of the
It
exercises.
was a nightmare.
How was that?
Nightmare.
I mean, it got a bit better, like, but definitely at the very start, very hard. Like, I mean, we're definitely very friendly, but we're not that friendly.
And Rich did alum with us as well, so there was 4 of us, so
Yeah.
we would always have a partner, and
He was.
not like that.
It was good though. He intentionally was really shit at acting to make us feel really good, which fucking helped a lot.
That's good directing for you. Make yourself be the worst person in the room. Give him confidence.
Yeah, it's dead easy acting yourself, basically. We just rocked up and did a film. I feel bad for anybody who goes to fucking months of acting, years and years of drama school.
Idiots. No offense. I'm sure there's a few of yous in. I could actually start guessing it now.
No acting school needed. Just look into each other's eyes, 10 minutes a day, and you're good, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Rich, I've got a question for you. you're not new to controversy. Obviously, you've starred and directed a movie before, One Rogue Reporter.
Starred of freaking, that's a generous word.
Starred, you were in it, but yeah.
Featured.
Gotta be real. But yeah, how did you approach, I guess, the more sensitive topics of Northern Irish history and the controversy within that? Yeah.
In a way, I think that an Irish man or woman would have struggled to make the film. I think that on a
Stupid parties.
it's just a bit beyond them. Do you know what I mean? 100 years or so, they may be ready for this sort of handling cameras and things. It's very complex work. Do you know what I mean? It's, no, look, I think that it would have been seen as being sectarian or anti-British, and we kind of made ourselves quite Teflon by the fact that I am British, and it's like, you know, it kind of, when the Daily Mail, who were already writing hit pieces about us before the film had even been screened at Sundance, it was like, you know, this anti-British film, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it's not that anti-British when it's written and directed by a British person. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, I think that you can be British, and part of, I think, what my conception of being British, I'm not a nationalistic person at all, but it's like, part of being British, I think, is recognising the colonial history that we've got, recognising that the imperialist history that we have still has a real-world impact upon how nations like Ireland operate, and it leaves an impact upon the people that last generations and generations. And I think that acknowledging all of that doesn't make you anti-British. It just makes you recognising who you are and where you come from. You're born where you're born, right? But I think that the idea that you just ignore that, I think that there is a lot of British, there's a real, for me, going to school, like, I did a chapter on Irish history, and it was like, you know, oh, there were some terrorists and the British state stamped them out, and you just kind of, you're just a kid at school, and you go, okay, fine, yeah, whatever. And it was only then kind of like meeting someone from there and going to West Belfast and, you know, meeting her family and going, oh, hang on, there's a whole nother narrative here that I didn't know existed. And then the more you learn about it, the more you realise actually, oh fuck, no, we're the bad guys. Oh, okay. And yeah, that was a real sort of, so you know, something that I'm very proud of is, you know, my family that I'm married into, a very West Belfast family, and I'm really proud that I've managed to make a film that I feel reflects the people of West Belfast in a way that I feel is genuine and authentic, and that resonates with them. And I think that was always really important to us, is making something that if the people of West Belfast could watch it and go, that catches our humour and everything like that, then we'd have succeeded. Do you know what I mean? And I think the film does that.
I think it was good. Oh, sorry. It was good for the film that we had an English man directing it, because there was a lot of pushback on some of the jokes. I don't know if you can guess.
What joke do you think got the biggest pushback? Anyone?
Guess.
One joke.
One line in the movie.
They tortured us for it to try and get it out of the script.
Whoever gets it get free merch.
Anybody? I'll look into your eyes for 10 minutes. He'll let you use the
Did I have
bathroom in
free
his
merch?
house.
No.
Let it go about that one.
Back up at him for that one. I want to blow you like a Brighton hotel. Oh, the fucking grief. Sorry that I didn't.
The funders couldn't believe how much we dug our heels in to keep that joke.
But everybody fucking hates Maggie Thatcher. Let's be honest. Fuck Maggie Thatcher.
Rich, just a quick continuation. Was comedic pause. Was the subject matter something you were familiar with in terms of Ireland and Northern Ireland, or was it something you felt like you had to prepare for?
Look, it was familiar in the sense I'd been going to Belfast for 10 years before I moved to Belfast. So, you know, I certainly knew the culture. But, you know, there was, you know, for me, the biggest thing that I did was, you know, after meeting the lads, was joining up to Irish language classes and learning the language. And I remember the first Irish language class that I went to, there's maybe 15, 20 people there, and you know, this is back in 2019, and half the people there were there because they were fans of Kneecap. And that was back in 2019, and I was like, this is mad. Like, I've just met these lads, like, had a drink with them. here and I'm like, I can't believe they're having that much of an impact already. And so, you know, part of the reason of learning Irish, which, you know, these boys will attest I'm fucking terrible at. I have my Fonya, but fuck knows, I mean, I bribed someone to get that, I think. It's like, you know. But, you know, it's... for me, it was about practically making a film in a language you don't speak. It's been done, but it scared the life out of me. But also, you know, I needed to understand why the language is so important to these boys, why they were choosing to live their lives through a language that was a minority language, that what was it that resonated with them about it. And I felt like it was a really cool political act, is to reject the language of the country that you illegally live in, right? I think that, you know, Irish is not a recognised language, but to say that I'm going to reject English as a language, the very fundamental thing of how we communicate, and live my life through a different language, felt like a very political act in a very unshowy way. And I just thought, you know, there's something in that. And I wanted to understand why that was, and I think that you can't do that unless you understand the language itself. And you know, the language is such a poetic thing. It's something that's it's an oral language, not a written language. So, you know, it's passed down through music and poetry and song. And these boys are, you know, the latest iteration of a long, long history that stretches far beyond where the English language, you know, the Irish language is older than the English language. And, you know, these boys are doing something that, you know, is a historical moment for the language. They are, through song, through music, through poetry, through story, they are creating the language for a new generation, the same way that hundreds of years ago, trad singers, storytellers did the same thing for their generation. And I think that, you know, just whatever their music or whatever they do musically from here, and whatever the film does, you know, their legacy is going to be the cultural impact that they're having upon the island of Ireland and beyond that. And I think that that's something that is super cool and very few people can ever claim, but these boys can.
Thank you guys for answering my questions. You can see on my little paper here, I've got questions for days, man. I could ask you guys all night. But let's open up to the audience. Have you guys got any questions for them?
Hi, guys. I'd just like to say, as someone who was brought up in Wales and Scotland with Irish family, I've always felt very culturally Irish, although completely British on paper. So thank you for giving a different dimension to that. Growing up, it was watching Celtic, listening to the Wolf Tones on the hoops, and so you've pushing the Irish language side of things has been really inspiring for I know me and my brothers, and will be something that I teach my daughter that I wouldn't necessarily have done, wouldn't necessarily taught her that side of her Irish history. So thank you for that, and I suppose I should ask a question as well. I was going to ask you that. I was going to tell you that after the gig, but I was a couple of months ago, but I was a bit messed up in the smoking area. So the question would be, have you been surprised by the positive reaction you've got in mainland Britain, and is it less of a surprise when you get that in Wales and Scotland, more so than England?
It's definitely less of a surprise to get it in Scotland and Wales, 100%. We were in Glasgow last night for a screening, and it was fucking chaos. It was like a Galatasaray match. And I swear to fuck, flares now anyway. But we knew it was going to land more with these audiences, especially like we were in America, showed it a few times, and like a lot of jokes just went over their heads. It was a screening in Texas actually, and you can imagine how the joke Cowboys were proper cunts went down. Dead silence.
Started shooting the screen.
So we knew it was going to go down better in some places, and like we were prepared for that. But just you were saying about sending your kids to high school and stuff, like Mowgli got a message there the other day about somebody he knew years ago. This woman who's seen the film, she was like, I've just had a kid, and she's turning 3 or turning 4 or whatever, and I wasn't unsure whether I was going to send her to an high school or not. But after watching the film, I've seen the importance of it. And I mean, how cool would that be? Even if you don't speak the language, just having a wee bilingual child on the bit, that'd be great crack. If that answers your question.
Oh yeah. Thanks, boys. I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was really, really funny, and just put in a minority language kind of front and centre that everyone can kind of get behind, and it's of a time, you know what I mean? Partying, drugs, having a laugh with your friends, that music. I just wanted to know, do you see us as Brits or as Welsh people? Because that would be...
Well, I can speak for us three.
Yeah, whenever I look at Wales, I always just think Welsh, and that wouldn't cross my mind to think British.
It's the same. We don't. Well, I mean, Britain isn't even something we really say, or the United Kingdom. Like I always like we don't ever say UK tour or whatever.
We do like to legitimise it.
So it's always a tour of England, Wales, and Scotland. So it's just terms that we purposely avoid, because obviously we grew up in the north, which obviously gets classed Northern Ireland a lot, which is obviously something we disagree with completely. That legitimises a state that we think is completely illegal and illegitimate.
I've seen this man getting a punch up in his local because someone accused him of saying the word Northern Ireland, and I was like, mate, does it matter that much? And he was like, oh, I never would have said it. I never would have.
I don't know how drunk I am. I know for a fact I'm not saying that.
Do you know what I mean? It annoyed him so much that someone accused him of saying the word Northern Ireland that it nearly freaking spilled over, and it was very early when we met. I was like, oh, this really, just like the linguistics of that really matter to him. And I mean, I heard you and you did say it.
Peace talks were had. It was a good Saturday evening agreement. There was no punch up in the bar.
The Pancake Tuesday Agreement, it was called.
I mean, for us, obviously, like the language of politics is important, but I think you can't get too boiled down with all these terms that come up with Northern Ireland or Britain and all these things. I think people are what they are, and languages tell stories, and stories are made up of languages. And they want us to fit between each other and to say, what the fuck are you Welsh, are you Scottish, are you British? You can be British and speak Irish, speak Welsh. You can be whatever the fuck you want, and it doesn't really matter, actually.
That's a great answer towards the end. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, do you look across the Irish Sea and see what's happening in Wales and Welsh speakers and Welsh language, and look to learn kind of lessons, or hope that your government learns those lessons?
My eyesight's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously the Eisteddfod, that was started a long time ago in Wales. I don't know how old it is, it's quite old, the Eisteddfod. And Ireland based Oireachtas, which is like a big traditional cultural event in Ireland, based it on the Eisteddfod. And we looked at Wales, especially for the music, like Super Furry Animals, and like the Welsh music scene has been very strong here for a long time. So we have been inspired by Wales for a long time in terms of the language, and like, you used to go around painting all the road signs. That was pretty cool. Yeah, and you still do.
And then the S4C as well, like took massive fucking TG cars basically based on that as well, you know. And it's a lot, like the Welsh language is a lot bigger than the Irish language. So it's something that we take a lot of inspiration from, definitely.
Right, I'm just interjecting because we have about 3 minutes. So if anybody's got a quick question.
Everyone question, same time.
This lady had her hand up first.
In terms of with minority language music, I know in the Welsh context it's really hard to sort of have quote-unquote modern music that talks about sort of the modern day Wales, or in your case modern day Ireland. Obviously Sage Dodds knows about this. But how important is it for you to be able to rap and about, you know, your just day-to-day life and part of like your culture, living in 21st century West Belfast? And yeah, how important do you think that is to the modernisation of Irish as, again, such an old language like Welsh? It's really hard to sort of get it into the 21st century and get young people really excited about it.
I mean, I think every generation, every century and decade have to have their own thing. Like if you're in Ireland in the 16th century and you're writing a poem, like you're going to talk about stealing someone's kettle or whatever they were doing back then. And like my dad's generation, when they were speaking Irish, they were just singing about drinking tons of whiskey, and that made it feel relevant to them. And for us, like, we have to talk about what makes the language feel relevant to us. So I think it's very important that the language always is progressing, evolving, so that it connects with young people, because life evolves and life changes all the time. So I think the language has to follow that, and I think we have to make way for things and different subject matters that don't make everybody so comfortable. But that's just the way life is, and hopefully now there'll be more spaces where people can talk about things, and also a lot of it's fiction as well. I mean, nobody, like Scarface isn't true, you know what I mean? But there's no, oh shit, spoiler. I mean, we didn't actually take that much drugs in the garage. That was all glucose. I think we have diabetes, but it wasn't actually. But I think it's very important that the language evolves and resonates with young people, because without that there, like the scene in the movie where JJ's teaching and talking about the bog and talking about cutting turf, it doesn't connect with the young people, and then once they leave school they don't speak the language. So we need subjects, we need themes that makes young people feel connected to the language.
Well, I'm really sorry to sort of jump in. We really could listen to them all night, but these fellas have got to get to England tonight.
It's all right, we're going to take all their money. It's all right. Hey.
So, if you give a big round of applause.
Cheers. Deal. Be Palestine.